Welcome to The Deep Dive, where we tear through the source material and give you the knowledge shortcut you need. Today, we are immersing ourselves in a financial crime story that is it's absolutely staggering. Not just for the money, but because it's all built on class, social capital, and the desperate demand for one thing, a ticket to Glastonbury. We are dissecting the dizzying case of Miles Hart, and our mission for this deep dive is to really analyze how he used his elite connections, this lifetime of reputation, to pull off a nearly £1 million scam. And crucially, we're going to trace the collateral damage, because when that facade crumbled, it left a trail of destruction.
Yeah, and what's so clear here is that this isn't your standard anonymous online fraud. This is social engineering at its absolute purest. He exploited a level of trust built over decades, often starting right there in the classroom of an elite private school, Millfield, which is, just a stone's throw from the Glastonbury site itself.
Yeah.
That shared background, that sort of we know how things work mentality, that was his currency. He wasn't selling to strangers on our website. He was selling access to people who just believed he belonged to a world where access was, well, guaranteed.
So let's unpack that persona, because this is where the genius, or I don't know, the pathology of the deception really lies. His friends remembered him as the joker of the group. Sociable, clever.
Witty, the guy who just knew people, who had access. And that social circle, that reputation is worth more than cash.
And he didn't just rely on reputation, right? He backed it up with these extreme, tangible gestures of extravagance.
Exactly. That's the real foundation of his credibility. It created this cognitive dissonance that just shielded him from suspicion. The sources all point to one incident that basically cemented his financial status among his friends.
The Paris trip. We have to talk about the Paris trip, because this detail just defines the scope of his credibility from the very beginning.
It really does. He surprised a group of friends from Millfield, and let's just remember, that school costs about £12,000 a term. He surprises them with an all-expenses-paid trip to Paris on a private jet with less than 24 hours' notice.
Wow. That is the ultimate trust marker. I mean, if someone can casually fly you to Paris on a private jet, you don't question their finances. The sheer scale of it is the defense mechanism. Why would a guy like that risk it all to scam you out of a few £100 for a festival ticket? The small fraud hides right under the shadow of this massive display of wealth.
Precisely. That's the psychological trap he set. It becomes almost unthinkable to accuse him of petty fraud. It feels, I don't know, socially awkward. So that background was the perfect cover for when he started selling those Glastonbury passes. The hospitality, the VIP access, the guaranteed entry.
And when he claimed he had privileged access, whether it was family land near the site or some catering company connection, it was just instantly believable. Millfield is right there, a few miles from the pyramid stage. Those families have deep local ties. So when Miles presented himself as the man who could get you in, people bought it.
And that reputation turned what should have been red flags, a high price, an unusual sales method, into an exclusive opportunity. We see this with Seb, a former pupil who bought a ticket for the 2022 festival. Miles told him he had 42 hospitality tickets because his family was renting out land for luxury tents.
And what happened to Seb? Let me guess.
He chased him for months, getting more and more frantic. And then, 2 days before the festival, he was completely ghosted. The penny dropped when Seb called Glastonbury directly, and they said they'd never even heard of Miles Hart.
And that's when the trust just evaporates. But the money's already gone. And the sources say that while Seb was being ghosted, Miles was supposedly partying in Paris. Just incredible.
So he started with his immediate circle, but this thing scaled up, and it scaled up fast. Within just a couple of years, he'd struck deals selling these non-existent passes globally. We're talking nearly £1 million in turnover.
£1 million.
Gotcha.
It's a huge number. And these tickets, the sources say they were a complete mirage, right?
A total mirage. The thing about getting official Glastonbury tickets is that it's famously difficult. They sell out in minutes. They're linked to your photo ID to stop touting. Hart's scheme just bypassed all of that by faking it. Fake invoices, fake email addresses. He wasn't selling tickets. He was selling the idea of access.
And the biggest operation was for the 2024 festival. This is where he brought in intermediaries, which just blew the whole thing wide open. We're talking about an Ibiza promoter, Kai Kant, selling hospitality tickets for £13,350 each, and a company called Stargaze Entertainment.
Exactly. And the customers of those two, that's where the nearly £1 million figure comes from. These intermediaries basically acted as validators. They trusted Hart, So they extended his credibility to thousands of people who'd never met him.
And as the festival got closer and people inevitably got nervous, Hart he doubled down on the lies.
Oh, he just piled on more layers. He told people he ran a catering firm, or that his mother, Susanna Hart, who's a local counselor, had connections.
And we have to stress, the sources are very clear on this. His mother had absolutely no involvement. Somerset counselors do not get special access to Glastonbury.
It was pure prestige fabrication, using his family name to add weight to the lie.
So the collapse, when it came, must have been spectacular.
It was chaos. A guy named Will, who worked at Stargaze, said they were just drowning in calls from panicked customers. Hart's way of dealing with it was, well, it was pure audacity. He'd arranged to meet customers, and Will, at hotels or a pub near the festival site,
And then just not show up.
never showed up. Not once. He was just buying time, tormenting people. He knew he was never going to deliver.
And the final explanation he gave, it was on a call to a DJ named Danny.
Yes, using a hidden number. He delivered his final blame shift. He claimed the whole thing fell through because, and this is a quote, Glastonbury have found out about them and shut the whole thing down. He tried to make the festival look like the villain. And then he just vanished.
We've covered the financial crime, but now we have to shift to the betrayal of those closest to him. Because this is where the damage becomes, well, it's just so much more profound.
Yeah, this is where Hart goes from being a scammer to someone truly ruthless. Let's start with his godmother, Anna Maria. She'd helped his mother during a divorce, paying the mortgage, the school fees. She ended up being owed £300,000.
£300,000. And the story with the house, the brazenness is just off the charts. After court cases, Anna Maria gets ownership of the house. She puts it up for auction, and Miles Hart himself shows up, bids on it, and wins.
Wins it back with a £90,000 deposit check. A check that, of course, bounced 3 days later. He still owes her that money. It's just unbelievable.
It shows this deep belief that the rules just don't apply to him. And then, while clearing out that very house, Anna Maria finds something that reveals an even more sinister layer to all this.
She finds a box file. And inside are dozens of bank cards, all in different names, the names of his younger sister's friends.
But what was he doing?
This is where we get into organized financial crime. He was targeting his sister's friends, often in their first year of university, offering them an easy £100 to just open a bank account for him. He promised he'd cancel the card right away.
So he turned them into what? Money mules?
That's exactly what a criminologist, Dr. Nicola Harding, called it. He turned them into money mules. These accounts are used to quickly move and clean illicit cash, making it incredibly hard for authorities to track. He didn't just scam them. He weaponized their identities.
Yeah.
They're now potentially tied to a £1 million fraud, facing serious legal trouble for money laundering.
That is just horrifying. And then there's a story about his friend, Cian. It's maybe the most tragic detail in this entire story.
It's just heartbreaking. Cian died suddenly from a heart attack. Miles actually owed him £500 from an earlier ticket scam. Cian's grieving mother asked for that money back to help with the funeral costs. Miles sent a voice note saying the money was in the post. The source material confirms that 3 years later, the family has received nothing.
Wow. To exploit grief over a friend's death for £500 while you're raking in $1 million, that's a total lack of remorse.
It's a total vacuum of empathy.
So the ruin just spread outwards. The intermediaries who trusted him. What happened to them?
They were devastated. Kai Kant, the Ibiza promoter, went into hiding in Spain. He said he was £500,000 in debt and that his life was at risk. Stargaze Entertainment just shut down.
And the threats then moved on to completely innocent people, the new owners of his mother's former house.
Yes. Their address was posted online, and they became the target for everyone trying to get their money back. They had debt collectors, bailiffs, and on one occasion, 2 very large men showed up who seemed intent on causing them physical harm.
So their lives were just turned upside down.
Completely. They were forced to install this incredible security system. 8 cameras, automatic number plate recognition, facial recognition, lasers. They said their home really is like Fort Knox now. An innocent family had to turn their home into a fortress because of his scam.
Which brings us to where Miles Hart is now. We know his whereabouts are basically unknown, but there is a covert recording of him.
There is. In it, he admits he has debt that needs to be paid and that he was involved in something that went wrong. And in that same recording, he promises to pay back £480,000 to one group within 56 days, while also claiming, astoundingly, I am an honest person.
Has he refunded anyone?
Absolutely no one. He was last spotted at a pub near Glastonbury, right before this year's festival.
And officially, The Metropolitan Police are investigating up to 50 allegations of ticket fraud related to Glastonbury 2024. Miles, through his lawyers, just claims there are material errors in the allegations.
It's quite the irony, isn't it? The guy who could supposedly get you into the world's most exclusive festival is now the one person nobody can seem to find. If we pull back and look at this whole thing, the central theme is just the devastating power of social capital when it's used as a weapon. That elite school, the private jet, it all served as currency for his deception. It made the people closest to him the most vulnerable, because how could you possibly doubt someone who presents that kind of untouchable wealth?
And that's the core insight for you, the listener. In this kind of exclusive peer-to-peer deal, all the things that would normally scream scam, the lack of contracts, a bank transfer instead of an official site, they get normalized. They're accepted because the source, Miles, is the guy who gets things done. The informal nature of the deal is actually what makes it feel exclusive. And that exclusivity is the trap. So the question this case leaves you with is a big one. In a world filled with promises of VIP access, how do you verify an opportunity when the source already has a lifetime of curated trust behind them? What are the red flags beyond the sheer extravagance? Maybe the biggest red flag of all is when a deal relies entirely on one person's prestige instead of any kind of verifiable institutional security. Something to chew on.